I've always wondered what Grounded will be like with no story, so I decided to play 100 Days of Grounded completely ignoring it. I'll be playing on the default medium mode. This playthrough only has one rule. I cannot activate the mysterious machine, which means I cannot repair BURG.L. There's 3 goals: 0 or minimum deaths, peep and kill at least one of each available creature, and make a wall mount for each unique creature killed. The limitations of this playthrough include no Milk Molar upgrades, which means base health and stamina, base thirst and hunger drain, and a maximum of 2 mutations. I cannot upgrade or armor or weapons because the smithing station is purchased from BURG.L. All weapon repairs are going to require crafting resources because I won't have access to the glue station. I can't cook meals other than roast because the cookery is purchased from BURG.L. I'll have no oven, which is going to limit the armor and weapon options. No beefy smoothies unless I find muscle sprouts in a chest. No stairs available because they're purchased from BURG.L. The only roof pieces are going to be awnings or pinecone, and the pinecone roof pieces are late game and extremely expensive to craft. No zip lines other than the pre-existing ones because zip lines are purchased from BURG.L. And there's going to be at least 15 mutations unavailable, including Meat Shield and Buff Lungs, 2 of which I use almost all the time when I normally play. I'll also have no bandage, canteen, or torch upgrades because they are also purchased from BURG.L. This 100 Days challenge of Grounded for me is going to be completely different from any other playthrough I've ever done of the game. The reason for that is normally when I start a new playthrough of Grounded, I immediately go and activate the mysterious machine and repair BURG.L on the first day of the game. Since I'm not going to be doing that this time, there's no rush to run over to the oak tree. What I'm going to be doing instead is I'm going to be collecting as many different unique resources as possible and analyzing them at the first field station to unlock as many crafting recipes as I can. I'm also going to be trying to get Clover Armor on the first day because Clover Armor was buffed recently and it's actually a pretty decent early game armor. It's going to mitigate some of the damage taken from Tier 1 enemies, which is what I'll be facing for the most part in the early part of the game. I'm also going to be trying to craft as many of the pebblet weapons as possible on the first day, as well as a spiky sprig, because the spiky sprig is a decent early game weapon. The field stations are going to be landmarks that I'm going to frequent quite frequently in this 100 Days challenge because they're going to contain the resource analyzers, which I need to analyze different resources to unlock the crafting recipes. They also sometimes contain granola bars as well as files. I'll be grabbing all the story files, even though I won't be progressing the story just because they're there. Analyzing resources is going to unlock crafting recipes, provide raw science, and up the brain power level, which will further unlock more crafting recipes. Now, the raw science in this 100 Days challenge is not going to be any of use to me because I can't use it at the BURG.L swap shop, but I'll be collecting it as I go through and just seeing how much I end up with at the end. Analyzing 3 resources is going to be the maximum at the very beginning until the resource analyzer recharges, which only takes a few minutes. So I'll be able to come back and just analyze basically everything I find as quickly as possible. But the first goal is going to be just to start crafting things. And obviously, like I said, I wanted to start by crafting the different pebblet weapons and then the spiky sprig. Just up the path from the field station is going to be the mysterious machine, which, like I said, I will be just completely ignoring in this 100 Days challenge. Now, fortunately, right up here is going to be a bunch of clover leaves, which is going to be great because I'm going to need a lot of those to make the clover armor. Also, there's going to be lots of plant fibers on the ground, which are going to be needed early game. And there's also going to be some sap. Sap is something that, as I'm playing through the game, is just going to be a resource that's just pretty much needed all the time. So I'll never have enough sap. So anytime I see it, I try to grab it. Also going to be looking out for any creatures to possibly peep, as I am trying to peep every creature that I can possibly find. And this Weevil just is going to also happen to be my first creature kill because I'm going to need him for dinner tonight. After collecting a bunch more resources, I head back to the field station. I'm going to pick up a blade of grass here and analyze it. This might not seem obvious, but you can actually analyze the blades of grass, which is going to unlock a bunch of things. It's going to unlock the ability to build some walls and stuff like that. And it's also going to, in this case, unlock the crafting recipes for the clover armor. I did grab a bunch of clovers so that I can actually make the armor. And obviously, like I said, that's going to be my first goal. So analyze a couple things. I'm going to head out here and I'm going to be looking for a spot to build a early kind of like temporary base. And this rock right here is kind of one of the places I usually use. It's off the ground, so it should be safe from any of the ants and stuff that try to get up, because the ants will try to eat your food. So first things first is going to be to craft a workbench, because that's going to be needed to craft pretty much all the gear in the game. Setting up a lean-to also for a place to sleep is going to be important. And then, of course, the roasting spit so that I can make my weevil roast for dinner. So I gathered all the resources to finish the workbench, the lean-to, and the roasting spit. I'm going to cook my first meal here, head over to the workbench, and start looking at my options here. So crafting a pebblet hammer, of course, like I said, I'm going to need that. I need a little bit more to make the spiky sprig, but I can start crafting the clover armor, which is going to be my early game armor. Like I said, it was buffed recently, so it's actually pretty decent early game. Just need some rope. I got plenty of clovers here, and we're good to go. I do have the ability to actually put on the clover armor, which I'll do immediately because it's going to provide some protection from the early game dangers. After gathering some thistles and crafting the spiky sprig, next up I decide to unlock the first mutation that normally I unlock, which is going to be Parry Master. This is going to require getting 20 perfect blocks or parries to unlock it. The parry will obviously be shown by the little sparks that you're seeing on the screen there. The easiest way to get this is going to be doing it against lawn mites, because even if they hit you, they're going to do very little damage. So after unlocking Parry Master, I immediately dispatch of this lawn mite, and like I do in many cases after unlocking things, I forget to equip it. I would recommend definitely unlocking that as soon as possible, and also mastering perfect blocking and parrying, because it's going to be one of the most useful skills when you're playing through Grounded. A few minutes later, I do remember to equip the Parry Master mutation as I'm on my way to explore the first kind of underground cave that I'm going to go in. This is normally where you would go when you're repairing the mysterious machine. I want to head down there because there is at least one collectible down there, and also obviously I'm going to be getting the resources from the lawn mites. So this is normally a cave you're going to go in pretty early on in the game. It's relatively safe. There's just going to be lawn mites in here. I'm going to have a torch, which is going to make it helpful to see inside of here because it is quite dark, and there are lawn mites that are actually on the ground that will attack you. Using the different weapons is actually really beneficial early on as well, because there are mutations associated with each of the different weapons, which will be helpful later on, as fighting enemies without upgraded gear is going to be very difficult. So having the right weapons and just having those extra mutations will be very helpful to me. And also I'm going to be getting way more perfect blocks here against these, or parries against these lawn mites, because they are very easy to parry. Also going to be grabbing some slime mold stalks. They're going to be useful for underwater exploration a little bit later on. And down here is going to be this first little rock wall. So behind the rock wall is going to be a little secret area. This is normally a place I'll come back to later once the mysterious machine has been repaired, because once you do that and talk to BURG.L, it will actually start spawning in raw science around the world. That's not going to be the case here, so I won't be coming back here except to maybe to grab some of these rocks and stuff, or pebblets like this. But back here is going to be some more slime mold stalks, but also there's going to be some upgrade rocks here, which I will collect as I'm playing through, even though I can't use them. But basically, I'm coming back here to get this Scabby. Scabby is going to be a way to just customize your UI. You can have one associated with your nighttime and one associated with daytime, and it's just kind of a cool little customization thing and like a collectible in the world. After a very productive first day of resource gathering and exploration, I'm going to head back to my lean-to, set my respawn point, and sleep for the night. The main goals for day 2 are going to be to head over to the oak tree and gather some acorns. I'm going to need the acorns to make the acorn shovel, which is going to be needed to dig up grubs, and grubs are going to be used to make a canteen, which is going to be very helpful. Exploring around the oak tree early on, especially in the first 2 to 3 days, is relatively safe because the wolf spiders that are around the oak tree do not come out, I believe, until the 3rd night. There's also lots of sap over here. The other main goal for the 2nd day is going to be to find a more permanent location for a base, because obviously living on a rock is not going to be sustainable for very long. After gathering enough acorns, I head over to the pond, the koi pond, and do a little bit of exploration over here. What I want to do is peep some of the creatures underneath of the pond. So here's going to be a tadpole. Tadpoles are passive. They will actually run from you when you attack them. They are a good source of food. Water fleas are aggressive, so got to be mindful of those. And off in the distance, I spot Trudy the koi fish and get my first gold card. Gold cards are obtained randomly in most cases from killing a creature. In this case, because you cannot kill Trudy, you're going to get it the first time you peep her. I definitely have to be mindful of Trudy at all times, because if I come in contact with her, I will get one shot. Now, swimming on the surface is safe. She will not attack you up there. But as I go and explore the depths of the koi pond, I certainly need to be mindful, because if I come in contact with her, she will one-shot me. There's also a lot of resources inside of the pond that will be useful, obviously, for exploring it. And also, there's going to be a field station on the pond pagoda over here, which will be useful. This is also going to be probably a good location for the trophy room that I want to create, which is going to be the wall mounts for each of the unique creatures that I'm going to be dispatching as I play through the 100 Days Challenge. Algae is also really important, because algae is the new recipe, is required for the base level of, or basically the first smoothie that I'll be able to craft, as they've changed that. You used to be able to use whatever you wanted for crafting. It was a questionable smoothie. Now it's going to be called the soothing smoothie. So I'm going to be needing to gather as a lot of algae as I play through. And then, of course, over here is going to be some spider webs, which are going to be useful for crafting the second tier of rope, which is going to be silk rope. And like I said, here's an analyzer. So I'm going to be analyzing these resources to unlock the ability to make the shovel and some other things, which will be very useful. Next up, I'm heading to a place where I kind of want to build my first base. I do come in contact with the first larva, which is a relatively dangerous enemy early game, especially if you miss your blocks. The spiky sprig, as you can see, is coming in very useful because it does stun the larva and helps me take care of it pretty quickly. I did take a little bit of damage there. Now, this is going to be the location for my first kind of semi-permanent base. I have built here before. The reason I'm choosing this is because I will not have access to roof pieces early on. I will be using the leaf here to kind of just give me protection from any type of flying enemies that I might have to run into. So I was just going to put a roof over my head. So this is a pretty decent early game building spot. Like I said, I've used it before, and I'm just going to kind of just set up my base here and take it from there. I started off day 3 by collecting a bunch of clay in order to finish the foundation of my current base. And the reason for that, using clay, is that it's the only floor pieces that I'm going to have until much, much later on in the game. So laying it down clay is pretty easy to get, and it's a nice little flat surface here to be able to place down the different crafting stations, as well as to be able to place walls up around them. Day 4 was mostly spent collecting weed stems in order to finish the walls of my base, which I was able to do. Inside, I have all the crafting stations, including the newly made grinder, as well as a spinning wheel. Armed with my newly crafted red ant club, I head over to the hedge to see how much of the hedge lab I can access. Now, the labs normally require the use of the biometric scanner to access them. Because I'm not able to repair BURG.L, I'm not going to have access to the biometric scanners. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of the hedge lab and future labs that I find I'll be able to explore. So heading over here to the first zip line, I'm going to pass a door. I can see a door off to the left here. And oddly enough, it does have a green light over it, which means the door should be accessible. Now, this is going to be huge if I can get inside of here, because there's a switch in here which activates the survey scanner, which will show you where resources are in the world. So I got to be careful when I come inside of here, because there should be at least one robot that will be guarding this little area. And yes, I do see a Ruz T. This is the most basic robots. They're the easiest to take care of. 2 hits with my red ant club dispatch of it pretty easily. So grabbing some story items here just for collection's sake, I'm going to head back and see if this door is actually open back here. And yes, it looks like I can get inside of it. Much to my delight, I can actually turn on the switch for the survey scanner. And this is going to make my life much easier as I play through this 100-day challenge, because it's going to let me find things like the crow feathers, which don't always drop in exactly the same spots, or they're not always in the same spots at all times. It'll show me the locations of bugs, and so I'll be able to collect those resources. So this is going to be huge. Anytime I go to a field station, I'll have access to the survey scanner. Making my way deeper into the hedge lab, I do come across my first web sack. Web sacks will produce spiderlings, but they can also have drops from different bugs, specifically the tier 2 bugs. This is a really good way of early game of getting tier 2 bug parts without actually having to fight them. And this web sack is actually a jackpot. It actually had a stink bug part, a stink bug gas sack, as well as a bombardier part. Those are all needed in order to unlock the tier 2 axe, as well as the tier 2 hammer. Just up ahead is another part of the lab here, and as was the case with the previous one that I came across, this one's actually open as well. Inside, there's a couple of spiderlings, which are kind of easy to dispatch here, and nothing important inside of here, but there is going to be a chest that's going to have some items in it to grab here. A smoothie, which I am not able to make at this point, which is cool, as well as a scabby and some granola bars, as well as a tape that is part of the story. Exploring further in the hedge, I come across the flying discman frisbee and another scabby. There's also lots of web sacks here, but I'm going to ignore those for now because I just don't want to have to deal with a bunch of spiderlings that are going to come out of them. I want to get through the hedge and get to the main lab as quickly as possible because night is approaching very quickly. I stumble upon yet another zip line, which is going to help me traverse through the hedge lab here, and it's going to dump me inside of another part of the lab here, which of course is going to be inhabited by more spiderlings. These guys are going to be frequent and all over the lab as I explore through it. Now, inside of here is not going to be anything of too much interest other than a chest here, which is going to contain yet another smoothie, as well as some upgrade rocks. We're going to get another tape here and a couple of bandages. There's some web sacks here, but again, I'm going to ignore those because I want to try to get to the main part of the lab before it gets dark. In the distance, I can see the main hedge lab. So as I approach the final descent inside of it, I notice this looks a little bit different to me. Maybe it's the same, but for some reason, this walking up here just seems a little bit different than what I've done before. So we're walking up here and unfortunately, I hit I don't know, a little notch or something in the twig that was up there, and I fall down. Now, fortunately, I did land on a leaf there, so I didn't take critical damage. And as I'm dropping down here, because I'm going to have to go all the way back through and get back there, I do find a mixer. This is the Hedge Lab mixer. It doesn't unlock the Natural Explorer mutation here because it is a landmark. Now, unfortunately, because I'm unable to repair BURG.L, I'm not going to be able to defend any of the mixers. The mixers are one of my favorite parts of Grounded, but like I said, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to activate those. So what I'm going to do, it's already noon in-game, and it does get dark in about 5 hours, which is roughly like 10 minutes in-game. There's no way I'm going to be able to make it all the way back up and through the Hedge Lab before it turns dark, and I certainly don't want to be there in the nighttime with I know all the spiders that are in there. So what I'm going to do is just gather some resources, dump those off back at my base, and then kind of come back here the next day and just go at it right from the first thing in the morning so I have maximum daylight. Take 2, I make my way back to the Hedge Lab in the morning and head back up to where I was before, where I just fell. This time I'm a little bit more careful and make sure to hop over that little notch in the stick there and get over here to the zip line. The zip line is going to take me right into the main area of the Hedge Lab. So heading down here, we're going to run into the Hedge Lab breach. This is the little computer room. So there's a water cooler here, which is useful. They did put these in the labs, and they'll let you fill up your water so you don't get dehydrated. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to have access to opening the door because I don't have access to the biometric scanner. Fortunately, though, the Hedge Lab, the way it's built, you can actually access lots of it by just traversing up the branches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back up around here and see how much of the Hedge Lab I can actually explore without having to use the biometric scanner. First, however, I'm going to head up here, and even though I'm not going to be able to summon in the Broodmother because I'm not going to have access to the oven, I am going to go up here and grab the Broodmother recipe because there's no harm in getting it. There's also a milk molar up here, which I'm not going to be able to get just yet because I do need the insect hammer to get that. So heading inside of here, we're going to grab the Broodmother BLT recipe. There's also a Scabby up here. So we're going to grab those and then head back down into the lab. As I expected, there should be a way in the Hedge Lab, and there is this hatch here, which I normally get into a little bit later on. I'm going to be going in here. This is going to be my first way actually into the Hedge Lab. So I'm going to drop down in here, and of course, I'm going to be greeted by a spiderling as they are all over the place in here. And you can see there's just a little group of them here, bunch of them. These guys can actually chunk your health down pretty quickly, so I have to make sure I get rid of them as fast as possible. Fortunately, the Red Ant Club is doing a pretty good job of just wiping them out. Now, of course, it does use a lot more stamina than the other weapons, so I'm going to have to take a little break here just for a second, get rid of that last spiderling. Here's going to be the first, or one of the parts of the password that you would normally use to access the computer, which I'm not going to be able to, but I'm going to grab it anyway since it's there. Grabbing these bandages and granola bars could be helpful later on. And yes, as I expected, I should be able to explore a good chunk of the Hedge Lab, because right here, I'm just going to have to break these webs. So as long as I can keep finding places where I can break the webs to open the doors up, I should be good to go. I think the only place that I'm not going to be able to get into is going to be the final room, which contains the super chip, which I wouldn't be able to use anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Dispatching a couple more spiderlings in here. I'm going to be careful here because I do believe that this room does have an Orb Weaver Jr. in it somewhere. The Orb Weaver Jr.s are going to be much more dangerous than the spiderlings. So I'm going to grab these collectibles here. There's another piece of the password there. And just looking around just to see what else. There's a chest here. It's going to have a couple of upgrade rocks in it. Again, not going to be needed, and here's my first experience with an Orb Weaver Jr. Now, again, these guys can hit pretty hard. I believe they can poison, or at least they used to be able to poison, but thankfully I'm able to land a couple of perfect blocks, and the Red Ant Club is coming in clutch here, doing just stunning this guy, and I'm hitting all my perfect blocks here, which, to be completely honest, is not normal. So, took care of him pretty easily. That was much easier than I expected it was going to be. And here's a resource analyzer, which we don't really need. So I'm basically just going to go through here. I'm going to grab as much web fiber as possible because I'm going to need a lot of silk rope as I progress through the game for various items. Well, a lot of the tier 2 items require silk rope, and it's just going to be something that web fiber, just kind of like I mentioned earlier with the sap and stuff like that, there's just resources that whenever you come across it, you should just always grab it. So I kind of try to grab as much web fiber as possible. So we're going to chop through here and head down here. And another door here that's going to have a way to basically chop. We're going to have to chop it open to get through it. Again, this is pretty nice. I can see there's robots through there, so these might actually be... Yeah, these are the Tase Tees here. So these guys are a little bit stronger than the Ruz Tees that I ran into earlier, and they will actually hit pretty hard. And unfortunately, I think there's a couple of them here. They will gang up on you pretty quickly. So the Red Ant Club does do good work on them. So heading down here and around the corner. I know there's more of them in here. I think I just saw one. And there we go. Grab my first figurine here. So the figurines are actually needed in order to unlock Rascal Rogue. Rascal Rogue will let you steal resources from enemies, which can be useful. It's actually the only way to get a couple things. Like there's a trinket that the aphid drops that you can only get by stealing from it. And to the best of my knowledge, this might be the only figurine I can actually acquire, because I believe the rest of them are all locked up behind doors that would require me to have repaired BURG.L. So here's another Taste Tea, and that guy was trying to wind up and crack me. There's yet another one coming here. So they just keep coming. Taking care of them one at a time. You know, actually, this is a Ruz Tea. This guy's pretty easy to kill. That time it took 3 hits instead of 2. Hitting him in the back's going to give extra damage. So I try to do that, but in that case, I just couldn't. Dealing with them one at a time is going to be the best bet. If I try to fight 2 or 3 of them at the same time, they could really easily just dent my health. So there's just a little more room down there. I think there was a room back here that I can chop through. I got to be careful the way I go through here, because I could get into a position where I end up like getting stuck. Oh, and there was another Ruz Tea just hiding down there in the corner. So getting all kinds of raw science here. Fortunately, that's all these guys drop. Raw science, which will be useful if you're normally playing the game the regular way, but because I am not going to be able to use raw science, it's just going to be a collectible for me. Again, there's a milk molar there. Actually, that milk molar down there is one that I can collect, because that's a new one they added. They replaced one of the milk molars with that one. That's going to be the first one that kind of like teaches you how to get it if you don't actually have access to the insect hammer at this point. This door is locked. It's one that I'm not going to be able to get through at any point, because it requires me, I believe, to use the computer or the biometric scanner. One of them opens that door up. So that door is going to be just kind of permanently locked here. So we're going to head back up here, see what else I can find inside of the hedge lab. There's another robot there to the left. So I can head down there, which I'm probably going to end up doing here. Got to see what's down there. Like I said, that's a like half open milk molar, or maybe not. Maybe the better situation is to come up here, because if I go down there off the zip line and just land on top of him, I could end up just getting like completely cracked here. So up here is going to be some more web fiber. We're going to grab as much of this as possible, like I said. Just kind of see what's going on up here. I think there's another Orb Weaver Jr. at some point in here. I think there's 2 of them. So I definitely am kind of being careful in terms of them. Maybe there's only 1. This is a resource room that just has a bunch of resources in it. We're going to grab the kind of stuff up here that's the one-of-a-kind stuff, the regular thing. And there's some silk rope, which I have not been able to make to this point, because I don't, or maybe I have, I don't remember. But I'm going to grab all that and then kind of grab the food items here just for those. The rest of this stuff is just stuff that you could come back and get later on. I'm not going to grab all this stuff. I'm just going to grab kind of what I can, because I know that I'm going to use it probably in the very near future. So we're going to grab up on that. I thought there was usually spiderlings in here. I guess, is it either sleeping or I just didn't see it yet? Because there's usually a spiderling like sitting up here somewhere, but it hasn't aggroed to me yet. Oh, there it is. It's sleeping in the corner. And unfortunately for it, I'm going to completely dispose of it without even seeing me. So that actually zip line leads me back down to where I originally went in. So I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go back down here, and I'm going to have to figure out, hopefully this Taste Tea or Ruz Tea, whatever it is not just camping the zip line, and I'm able to actually get down there and get into the room without getting hit. That's going to be the main goal here. So jump up here on the zip line, take our chances down here. It is a Ruz Tea. Fortunately, they're the easiest ones to get rid of, so we got rid of that. This is going to be the first milk molar. Now, like I said in the beginning, I'm not going to be able to use the milk molars. I'm going to collect as many as I can, or as I come across. I'm not going to go out of my way to find them, but if I do come across them, I will grab them. And the ones that I know where they are, I'll probably come back. Like, I'll grab the ones in the hedge lab later on when I end up having the insect hammer, because I'm going to have to come back here at some point anyway, just to be able to grab the more web fiber. So that's probably, I think, all of the hedge lab. I'm going to go back up maybe and just see where else it is. I think I've gotten into as much of the hedge lab as I possibly could at this point, because there's just, like I said, the first door is kind of locked. I can't grab everything right now because I don't have the insect hammer, so I'm going to have to come back here at some point in the future. But I did explore. I was kind of surprised. I honestly didn't expect to be able to completely explore most of the hedge lab. I think I went through about 95% of it. Before heading home, I'm going to drop down and go inside this little hidden cave here. Now, many people might miss this because it's kind of like just hidden in the wall back here. It does contain the ant totem recipe. It's going to have the rotten ant club. It's going to have a couple of upgrade rocks back here. And it's kind of like a cool little unique like Easter egg that's just hidden back here in this wall, back by the mixer that is in the hedge. So now that I've gotten basically everything I could out of the hedge lab at this point, I'm going to head back home and prepare for the next day. Days 8 and 9, I spent collecting the resources to craft the insect axe as well as the insect hammer. The first thing I did when I got the insect hammer was head over to the ice caps mint box to break these mints, because what that's going to do is allow me to unlock fresh defense, which is going to be very useful for the lower yard, having to deal with like stink bugs and also dealing with the bombardier beetles. And absolutely like massive fortunate thing to happen here, the suspicious ice cap drops In my 1,500 hours of playing this game, this is only the second time I've actually seen this. Now, granted, it was added after at 1.0, so it hasn't been around long, but I have hundreds and hundreds of hours. This is the only second time I've seen it. The reason that is really, really important and it's going to be useful for me is because what it's going to do is it's going to add 15 fresh damage to every attack I do. That is going to be very helpful for when I fight ladybugs, stink bugs, bombardier beetles, and then some of the upper yard enemies later on. It's going to be really useful for fighting them as well. It's just extra damage, and it is just super, super useful. After analyzing one of the mint chunks, I head back to my house to consume the mint chunks because what that's going to do is unlock the fresh defense mutation. Like I said, this is useful against stink bugs, useful against bombardier beetles. It's going to be especially helpful the first time I go into the sandbox. Eating 1 mint chunk is going to unlock phase 1 of it. Eating 5 total is going to unlock phase 2, and then eating 10 total is going to unlock phase 3. Having realized my initial base is not going to be sufficient to be able to support everything I'm going to need to place down for my 100-day challenge, I decide to head over to what I call Aphid Island. This is an island located in the eastern flooded zone near the hedge. And the reason I'm going to be building over here is there's several reasons, actually. First and foremost is there's lots of clay nearby, which is going to let me build a fairly large base rather quickly. I'm not going to have to go all over the map looking for clay, so I'll be able to get a nice solid foundation down. There's lots of resources, as you can see. There's clovers everywhere. There's plant fibers. There's also almost like an infinite food source. The reason I say it's Aphid Island or call it that is because there's so many aphids. There's also gnats and weevils. There's mushrooms here. It has close proximity to the hedge, which is going to give me access to web fiber, which I'll need for silk rope. I'm also going to have close proximity for the berries, which I'll need for berry leather, which is required in many of the tier 2 armors and weapons. It's also going to provide a basically impenetrable defense from land-based aggressive creatures. There's no way they can get over here unless I build like a giant bridge for them to get over here. So it's going to be easy to defend basically early on in the game. Any aggressive creatures that are chasing me, I can just jump over here and get over here. There's also water fleas under the water, so that's even another food source. So overall, this is a really, really good spot. I've built here in the past, and I just found that this is going to give me basically everything I need, and this will probably end up being either my permanent base location for the rest of the 100 days or certainly a very, like one of my major base locations. The original one I bought, I will use as an outpost. It's kind of centrally located in the middle of the yard. It'll be very useful to stop by there to get water or to cook food and also to drop off resources or pick up resources. But for the next few days, I'm going to be gathering resources and just building up my base on the Aphid Island. Day 5 of building my Aphid Island house, and I am nearly complete. I have all the walls put up. Basically, everything is built. I'm just moving things around and kind of putting them where I want. And as you can see, I've decided to build, obviously the floor is made out of clay, and I use grass walls for the first iteration of the house because there's just grass everywhere and it's just much easier to get grass at this point. Later on, I might upgrade to stem walls just for a little bit more durability in case I do get raided somehow. But for now, I'm just going to go with the grass walls. I do like how it turned out. There's plenty of room here for me to basically put down everything that I'm going to need for at least the foreseeable future as I'm playing through this 100 days. Day 16 marks an important milestone. I'm finally able to get out of my clover armor and upgrade to ladybug armor. I've been holding off upgrading the armor because I just wanted to get the ladybug armor. I feel like it's the best tier 2 armor in the game. So after taking down many, many ladybugs over the course of the last 15 days, I'm able to upgrade the ladybug armor. This is going to be a huge upgrade in terms of defense and resistance. It's going to make the lower yard much more easily traversed. And it's also going to carry me through most of the lower yard. And honestly, I could use it into the upper yard if I really wanted to. Equipped with my newly crafted ladybug armor, I make my way back into the hedge and head up to the bird bath. Now, interestingly enough, they did change this. You used to have to parkour over to the bird bath, but now there's actually a zip line you have to use, so you cannot parkour over there anymore. So I'm going to head over here. The reason I waited to get the ladybug armor is there's usually mosquitoes up here. These are the only mosquitoes that will be south of the koi pond prior to turning in the super chips, which obviously I'm not going to be able to do because I have not repaired BURG.L. So I noticed that there's at least one up there, maybe two. So there are a couple of mosquitoes up here. Mosquitoes are weak to both chopping as well as fresh. So using the suspicious ice cap in addition to the insect axe is going to give me my best amount of damage against them at this point. So because there's more than one of them, the goal here is going to be to divide and conquer. I don't want to fight two of them at the same time. Even with the ladybug armor on, I just don't want to take unnecessary damage here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly make my way in here and just try to just separate them so I only have to fight them one at a time. The only reason to go up to the bird bath, honestly, is for collectibles. There's going to be a scabby up here. There's obviously the gold milk molar you can see in the distance. And then there's going to be these upgrade rocks. So normally if you're playing the game, you would definitely want to come up here. But for me, this is just, I'm going up here just to kind of like check off the boxes that I've explored as many areas as possible. So by going back here and swimming, I was able to kind of separate the mosquitoes. And I think there might be one around. Actually, it's above me. Yeah, so right there. So one thing I really like that they changed at some point was if you parry a mosquito on its first attack, it will actually drop to the ground and let you get a couple of hits in. That was something I really was suggesting a long time ago. So it's going to make combat with them much easier. In the past, what would have to happen was you would basically just have to wait for them to come into attack or use a bow and then end up taking damage. So fortunately, they made that change, and it's just much easier to fight them now. So having taken that one out, I'm going to go look for the other one and just see if it's there. I believe the Scabby is up here in the water. So we're going to go up here and grab this. There's also a BURG.L flagpole up here that you can raise. This used to be a trail marker, but they've changed this in the one of the most recent updates. So these are here. You don't have to put the trail marker down anyway. You just raise the flag. You don't even need the quest for them. You can just do them whenever. That's going to give, I think that gives raw science, but honestly, it doesn't really matter because there's a, well, normally we give raw science if you have the quest, but because I am not prepared BURG.L, I'm not going to get the raw science for it. So I'm going to grab this gold milk molar up here, again, just for collection's sake, keeping my eye out for the other mosquito that I saw, just to see if it's up here, because, again, getting, like, sneak attacked by these guys, especially if they do their dive attack, it does do quite a bit of damage. And it kind of looks like that mosquito might have wandered away, so I think I lucked out here. By separating them, I only ended up fighting one of them, and I was able to fully explore the bird bath without taking any damage. Time to explore the koi pond some more, so I have the fin flops and the gill tubes, which is going to allow me to go a lot deeper into the koi pond. The goal of going down into the koi pond, I know I'm not going to be able to get into the lab because you cannot get inside any part of the lab except for the very first part of it without the biometric scanner. So the main goal of the koi pond is essentially going to be to collect sunken bones so that I can craft the bubble helmet, and then getting more sunken bones so that I can craft the bone trident as well as the bone dagger. The bone dagger is going to be needed in order to cut through soggy roots, which will be necessary later on. Those are underwater vines, basically. And the bone trident, in my opinion, is probably, it's my favorite. It might be the best tier 2 weapon. So very early game, it's actually really, really good. It has a fast attack speed and it stuns enemies. So down here, what I'm going to be doing is I have to take advantage of the air bubbles there. I can't go like super, super deep in here because I only have 80 seconds of air. And if I run out of air, if you run out of air and grounded, if it hits 0, you're essentially dead. There's no like health drain. You are instantly dead. So I have to be really careful. Go in here just as deep as I can and grab as many sunken bones as possible. Normally what I would do would be to come into here and go all the way into the lab, because once you get inside the lab, you can actually get most of the resources you need in order to craft the bubble helmet. You can do that inside of there, and then you can just drop right down, get all the sunken bones you need, and do everything else. So grabbing those sunken bones, I'm going to head back out so I can make the bubble helmet and basically just be able to explore some more down here. And then I'll just grab the sunken bones that I need in order to make the bone trident as well as the bone dagger. Having built on an island, I was not expecting to get raided, especially considering the fact that up to this point, I'd only killed that single mosquito that was on the bird bath. Nonetheless, I'm getting raided by mosquitoes on day 21 of my 100-day playthrough. So mosquito raids are honestly among the worst because they literally come in, they can come in from any direction, and they'll just start slamming into and doing their dive attacks into your walls and stuff like that. So right here, we're going to see the first one that's in here, and he's just kind of like, it's just outside trying to attack. I'm going to, of course, equip the suspicious ice cap along with my insect axe here because I know that's going to be my best bet against this guy. And he's honestly not going to be terribly difficult to deal with. Although, as you can see, they fly away. This is what they do. They fly away. They come in for their dive bomb attacks, and it hit me for probably like a quarter of my health there, even with the ladybug armor on. But taking care of the first one, there's still more here. And already, when I wasn't even paying attention to the back, they've destroyed my dew collector, and they're basically just destroying everything that's in the back here. And trying to use a bow, honestly, is going to prove fruitless, even though I'm going to get the extra fresh attack against them by using the suspicious ice cap with the attacks. It's not going to matter, so I'm going to switch back to the insect axe here and try to take these guys out. They already hit me to 50% of my health. So 2 mosquitoes took me down to half health because I only have level 0 ladybug armor on. And of course, they're in the back. It's almost like they're intentionally going after the toughest things, or the most important things, taking out the dew collector. They're trying to take out my jerky racks. So fortunately, there's only 3 of them at this point, and I'm able to clear it out. So I successfully, I guess, won my first raid, faction reactivity raid, but honestly, it was kind of weird. Only killing 1 mosquito up to this point, I'm kind of wondering if, because I've built in a place where the land-based creatures can't get to me, because I've killed far more other creatures up to this point than I have mosquitoes, I'm wondering if this is going to be like a recurring theme where I'm going to get raided by mosquitoes a lot because they're the only things that can actually reach me. Of course, bees could possibly reach me, but up to this point, I've only peeped a bee. I haven't even laid hands on a bee yet because I haven't gone over to the picnic table, but I'm gonna have to rebuild my like entire back patio area here. So successful defense of the raid, but mosquitoes, like I said, they're kind of annoying when it comes to dealing with them for the faction reactivity raids. Day 23, and I decide it's time to adventure into the Haze Lab. Now, normally the Haze Lab would be entered through the main entrance, which is found in the Haze. Unfortunately, that's going to require the biometric scanner like the other labs. So I'm going to be going through the back door, which is through this exposed pipe that is also just outside the Haze. This is normally the way you would come out of this lab once you're finished it. Inside this tunnel, there's going to be lots of water fleas. There's also some diving bell spiders. I'm going to need the bone dagger to chop the soggy roots in order to get into the Haze Lab area. And I also am going to make sure that I have on the bubble helmet as well as Mertine equipped, which is going to give me the maximum amount of underwater oxygen at this point. So heading through here through the soggy roots, I'm going to come across a couple of diving bell spiders. I'm going to switch to the bone trident because that's best to fight against them. The diving bell spiders they have really big hitboxes, and they're honestly, if you don't have good armor on, you can die from them really quickly. With 2 of them here, I'm going to be extra cautious because I just don't want to get chunked. Even though I have on Ladybug chest plate, which is going to give me a decent amount of armor, it's still not worth getting chunked here. And of course, as I'm fighting these, the water fleas are going to start coming in from behind since I ignored them earlier. They want to be part of the party as well. And you can just see here, trying to stab these guys with the bone trident is just, it's a pain in the butt sometimes. It's actually tougher in the koi pond when they can just kind of just dive away and dive at you. And they can hit you from really far away. So dispatching of all of those enemies and heading back down towards the end of the pipe here, I'm going to, finish off one last water flea so it doesn't poke me in the back while I'm chopping these other set of soggy roots. And this is going to let me get into where the Haze Lab is going to be. Now, I'm not going to be able to explore the entire Haze Lab. I know that because the door that's in this way also requires a biometric scanner, but I will at least be able to go inside of here and fight the infected weevils, get some resources from them, which will be useful later on, as well as grab one of the badges that's hidden around in a little corner area. So the infected weevils are basically, they'll basically just run up to you and explode. So you have to fight them from a distance, or you have to be able to melee attack them and take them out in one hit, basically. So the safest bet's going to be to just use a crossbow here for me. So I'm just going to kind of bait them out and just shoot them one at a time because I don't want to have them explode on me because they will do quite a bit of damage. And these guys are just going to drop, they're going to drop quite a bit of fungal growth, which the Haze Lab is going to be very good for. Fungal growth is going to be needed to make these splat bursts, which are going to allow access into areas that would otherwise not be able to be accessed because they can blow up some rocks that are in the game. And you'll notice there that the infected weevil just came down and basically just blew himself up. So they have no care for themselves. They just don't care. Their only goal is to come down and explode on you. So you got to be careful with them. If they sneak up on you, it could be trouble. Honestly, you can hear them coming from pretty far away. So not that big of a deal. And there aren't a ton of them here. Honestly, coming from this direction is probably a little bit easier because they can just be kited back here towards the water. When you come through the main entrance and actually come through the door, they'll just start pouring through the door and you kind of take them out one at a time. Now, in addition to them, the other danger that's going to be down here is going to be the strange spores. The strange spores do require a tier 2 axe. So you have to have the insect axe or higher in order to destroy them. If you don't destroy these before the little timer goes down, they will explode and then respawn. And then there's just some haze fungus growing around here. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm not going to be able to get through the entire Haze Lab because it requires the biometric scanner, but I can at least grab the little secret hidden skeleton loot that's back here in the corner, which is going to be a badge as well as some other items. So the defense badge and some other quest items there. So that's kind of the extent of the Haze Lab. Inside, you'll see there's robots. This is also where you'll fight kind of like the first mini-boss normally, which is going to be the infected ladybug. That's going to give a mutation, which unfortunately you only unlock by defeating that infected ladybug. The other infected ladybugs that are out in the wild will not give it to you when you kill them. So I'm not going to be able to unlock Truffle Tussle, but did get a decent amount of fungal growth as well as getting the badge, which may come in be useful later on. So I'm going to head back out. There are some other things that are down in the tunnels, and this is the door you would normally go through to fight the infected ladybug and then grab the super chip that's down here. There's going to be some like milk molars and stuff like that, and I believe some upgrades rocks that are down the other part of the tunnel, and I'm going to head out and grab those before heading over towards the picnic table, which is going to be the next area of interest. After building a small outpost under the picnic table, grabbing the Minotaur key from a nearby exposed pipe, and blowing up the rock behind the shovel falls down onto the picnic table, allowing easy access up there. The big issue with the picnic table is going to be that there are bees everywhere. Now, normally that wouldn't be a problem because most of the bees in the backyard are neutral, meaning they will only attack you if you attack them. For whatever reason, the bees that are near the picnic table, it's probably because there's a honeypot up here. There used to be a beehive at one point that was since moved over to the oak tree. The bees up here are actually aggressive. That means they will attack on sight. So also of note is there's quite a few crow feathers up here normally. Unfortunately, they only spawn in one time, but you can actually get quite a few crow feathers up here. So definitely worth grabbing. There's also going to be some black worker ants in and around the picnic table area. They're going to be useful for getting or helping get resources to make the tier 2 shovel, the black ant shovel, which is going to be needed to acquire, to dig up gum. And it's also going to be needed later on for some things. It also does much more damage than the acorn shovel, so it's easier for harvesting clay and other resources. Also, the black ant shield will become useful later on. Not using a shield right now in the lower yard because it just doesn't seem like it's absolutely worth it, but upper yard, it's definitely going to be worthwhile to probably use a shield. The picnic table also has random food items spawned on it. Sometimes there's cookies, sometimes there's hot dogs, sometimes there's apples. Also, you can get salt here. This will probably be one of the first places you can actually get salt, which is definitely going to be useful for making salt arrows. Normally, it would be useful for making different weapons and making salt globs, but in this case, since I cannot, and I actually got first black worker ant killed, get the gold card. That's pretty exceptional, considering there's a 1% drop rate of this, so that's pretty cool there. Now, this part's always kind of dicey. Sometimes these bees are here. Most of the time, these two bees are here. Sometimes they're not. Bees do have a weak spot in the eye, so hitting them in the eye is definitely helpful. And they have a little dive attack there, similar to the mosquito, but overall, the bees are pretty easy to take care of, honestly, especially if you deal with them from range. And they do drop some resources that are useful if you like the bee armor. The bee stinger is actually needed for zip lines, which again, I can't make. You can see there, the one shot with in the eye with the crossbow there took almost half the bee's health. So weak spot's going to be the eye. Hitting them with a bow, definitely going to be very dangerous or very helpful in taking care of them. And there's the triple attack, which fortunately I blocked a little bit of it. That triple attack, if I wouldn't have had one ladybug armor, would have did quite a bit of damage. So unfortunately, like I said, most of the time coming up here, I'll have to deal with those two bees getting across here. But once I've killed them, they'll be gone for a couple of days. Heading up here, there's going to be some splinters on the right, which are going to require the tier 3X, so I can't grab those right now. And going up here, going to go up. There is usually a crow feather down there, but I'm not going to grab it right now. I'm more worried about just getting up top and going through the maze and grabbing basically the resources that are up here. There's also a zip line at the top of here that goes into the sandbox. That's going to be probably the easiest way to access the sandbox. The cooler here does require being hit with a tier 2 hammer. The tier 1 hammer will not work, and you're obviously going to have to hit that in order to be able to get up here. And then up here, there's going to be some paper plates. There's going to be various food items on here. Again, sometimes you get lucky and get salt. The other items that are up here are generally just regular food items. Not really worthwhile, but unfortunately this time I don't think there's going to be any salt up here on this plate. There are going to be a couple of black worker ants, which, again, taking them out is going to be helpful. I will be going into the Black Ant Hill, which does have a lab in it, and seeing how far I can get into that. I don't think I'm going to be able to get all the way through the Black Ant Lab because I do believe it requires... I might be able to get through a good chunk of it, but there's going to be certain parts I just literally can't get through because they're going to require having already talked to BURG.L in order to be able to access them. And going in the Black Ant Hill is honestly going to be probably the most dangerous thing in the lower yard up to this point because if I get swarmed by a bunch of black ants, they can do a lot of damage, especially the soldiers. So definitely have to be careful of that. And again, up here, this is mainly just going to be collecting the different resources and then going through the Minotaur maze. The Minotaur maze is going to have a little chest at the end, which is what I needed to get the Minotaur key from. And the Minotaur key, again, is in a exposed pipe that's just south of the picnic table that it looks like it's almost exactly like the exposed pipe that I went in through the Haze lab, but it's just located a little bit over there. And you just need the bone dagger to go in and chop some soggy roots and grab that key. It is a little bit out of the way, so if you don't know where it is, it could be hard to find, but obviously having played through the game many, many times, I know exactly where it is. So grabbing all these food items. Main concern, like I said, is going to be going up here. There's going to be a research station or field station up here, which could become useful at some point. It also does contain a meal, and because meals are limited, I'm going to probably save that for later. Grab a couple bandages. There's going to be a zip line over here as well, so I can analyze the resources I just grabbed from the bees. Generally, I don't usually make any of the bee gear. The bee armor, I'd never really liked it. The stinger spear, it's okay, but I just prefer the bone trident. And honestly, if I end up fighting too many bees, I believe bees can actually raid you, and that could be just as bad as getting raided by mosquitoes and having flying enemies attack your base. Just not fun, especially when I don't have access to like turrets or even being put roof pieces down. They can do quite a bit of damage to me. So again, coming over to this plate here, looking to see if there's going to be any food. Unfortunately, again, no salt. That can there usually has like 1,000 raw science in it, but again, that only spawns in after talking to BURG.L. So there's not really any point in going in there, although there is a scab on the other side of the honey pot.
At this point, I'm just not even gonna, I'm trying to avoid these bees because I just don't want to fight 2 or 3 bees at the same time. It's not worth it. I don't need their parts really for anything. And other than for, I believe bee fuzz is needed for antlion armor at some point later on. So killing a couple of them is okay. Again, just like the mosquitoes hitting, if you perfect block them, they will actually fall and give you a little bit of time. So hiding under this little notebook here, the bees cannot actually hit you normally. Occasionally they will hit you with their stinger through it somehow, but in this case, they're actually not. And I did this time actually, I did not bring the silk rope with me. So I do know I need 12 silk rope next time I come up here to get into the sandbox. The other way to get to the sandbox would be going through the black ant lab. But normally I go through I'll normally go down the zip line if possible, because it just provides like a little bit of safer way in there. There's also there's a ant line that's pretty easy to kill with a bow if you go in that direction, but you can certainly go in through the other way. Minotaur Maze doesn't really have much in it. There's a couple little hidden items in here. There's going to be a piece of armor hidden back here, the crusty roly-poly armor. So grab that to analyze. It'll help, and actually unlock the ability to craft that piece of armor later. Well, it'll unlock the recipe for it, but I won't have the parts to make it just yet. Again, more crow feathers up here. Lots and lots of crow feathers up here. So super useful if you're using the crow crossbow, trying to make feather arrows, or if you're trying to make feather roofs. In this case, I can't make roofs. I was going to make feather awnings at one point, but they are so terribly expensive that it's just not worth it. So here's a Minotaur Maze's end. There's normally a bee inside of the last room. And of course it's there, so I'm going to have to fight this thing. Again, I'm trying to minimize how many bees I fight here because I just don't want to get them at a point where they're angry with me and I have to end up getting raided by them. Up to this point, the raids, I've only been raided one time by mosquitoes, which again, I thought was kind of funny considering I only ended up killing, I think, 1 mosquito prior to that raid. And I just went out of my way to just avoid them because I did not want to get attacked by them again. Although angering these bees could end up causing them to attack me at some point in the future. Using this door is pretty helpful here. Just get the bee stuck on it, and then it'll come through and get stuck. And you can see there, it nearly killed. It hit me for 2/3 of my health there with that combo attack through tier 2. I have ladybug armor on. Now again, level 0 armor makes it a little bit tougher. If I had level 5 ladybug armor on, I would probably just be tanking these attacks and not even worrying about missing a block. But without being able to upgrade the armor, it just makes it so much harder. And there he got stunned a little bit from the bow, it looked like. And kind of just taking advantage of the terrain here, of the geometry of the map, as well as my experience of all the time I played in this game, just to take advantage of every kind of little advantage I can get here to just be able to stay alive. Because again, the goal is just to finish the 100 days without dying while also killing as many bugs as possible. Now, there's going to be a chest at the end here, which is obviously the key is going to be required for. Trying to avoid fighting another bee, but this guy's going to end up attacking me. So I'm just going to shoot it and just kind of lure it again over here to the door, and it'll get stuck on it because it can't get through. Once it's finished its little attack there, poke it a couple times, and then just use the door basically as a shield. Hitting them in the eyes again. They have big red eyes, pretty easy to hit. Chunked them right there, which was nice. And then in this case, I'm going to go around. Every once in a while, they will get through the door, so I have to be careful there. But again, not too bad. Ended up killing most of the bees. I only took a little bit of damage one time. Go in here and grab the chest. Now, honestly, this chest, I could have completely ignored it because other than having the scab in there, which is collectible, it's got the picnic table chip, which I can't even use because I can't turn into the BURG.L, a bunch of upgrade rocks, which I can't use. And in the end, I could have completely skipped the picnic table if I wanted to, but just for kind of like almost completionist sake, I wanted to come up here, grab the stuff. And like I said, it also is going to provide a easy access route into the picnic, into the sandbox. And yeah, there's that. So that's the Minotaur Maze there. And normally I would be able to hit this and unlock phase 2 of Coup de Grace, but or one of the phases of Coup de Grace. For some reason, it wasn't working here. I think I had to hit it in a certain way, so it ended up just not working. So that was basically everything for the picnic table. Next up, the plan's going to be to head over to the trash heap as well as the Black Ant Hill, and then finally into the sandbox, which will basically be the completion of the lower yard. You never know when you're going to find something extremely important or rare in Grounded. And on day 28, that happened. Just like before when I found the suspicious ice cap, which is a 1% drop rate from harvesting the mint chunks, I was randomly cutting down this dandelion for dandelions and weed stems, and I got the fluffy dandelion tuft. Again, this is only the second time I've actually got this item in all the hours I've played this game. And why this item is really useful now is because the way the game has changed the way dandelion tufts are used. You used to have one equipped all the time. Now they just use from your inventory, but they do break one-time use. The fluffy dandelion tuft, however, can be equipped in the trinket slot and gives you infinite durability on it. So it basically will never break. So what this means is for the rest of the time I'm playing this, as long as I have this equipped or have it in my inventory, I don't really have to worry about harvesting dandelions. I will always, of course, keep a couple just in case I have one of the other trinkets equipped. But for the most part, I'm going to have this equipped and I'll just never have to worry about taking fall damage or running out of dandelions and jumping off like a high place. I'm in the process of upgrading my base from grass walls to weed stem walls, and out of the blue and for no apparent reason, the game decides to give me another faction reactivity raid, and again it's mosquitoes, even though I have not killed a single mosquito since I had the last raid. So I don't know if it's because I'm on this island, but the mosquitoes are here again, and once again they're in full force. They're attacking walls, doing their little dive attacks, doing damage to my base, and just kind of frustrating me at this point. Again, I really don't like mosquitoes in the game. They're one of the reasons I never turn in the super chips at the beginning of the game is because I don't want to have any mosquitoes in the lower yard if possible. I like to explore the entire lower yard without having to deal with them, other than the ones that are at the north end of the koi pan, and of course the ones that are at the bird bath. But for the most part, there's not mosquitoes, which are all over the yard once you turn in the super chips. And these guys are just going to town once again. Now, fortunately, I do have the right gear for this fight, and I'm prepared for it a little bit better, having upgraded the base a little bit. But again, the mosquitoes, they're just coming in, they're wailing on me. I'm already down to 50% health here. And these guys, they do their little attack, they go away. Another one's already come in, and at least blocking them does take them down to the ground. But I know there's another one over here. And of course, just like last time, for some reason, they go straight for my kitchen area, take out the dew collector. They're attacking the smoothie station again, just like last time. And I'm definitely gonna have to do something about protecting this, because having to repair this stuff over and over again, it costs a decent amount of resources, because when they actually destroy this stuff, I don't get back 100% of the resources like I would if I actually recycled it myself. And there goes the chair that I had placed there. So this time there was a couple more mosquitoes. There was like 6 or something this time compared to the previous time. And success, so double the raw science again, no use for that. But these guys just did work on my base once again, so now I have to go back to repairing it, unfortunately. And again, I'm gonna have to do something about this. I'm gonna have to upgrade it and think about doing some kind of roof system at some point, making use of whatever I have, because just losing all my stuff every time is just kind of like a setback, and it's extremely frustrating. Having completed the trash heap the prior day, I adventure into the Black Ant Hill and the Black Ant Lab on day 36. This is the most dangerous place I've been to at this point in the lower yard up to this point in the 36 days or the 100 days. The reason it's so dangerous is because there are a lot of black ants in here. The soldier ants are super aggressive. If they aggro you and then there are worker ants around, the worker ants will also aggro you. And getting attacked by like 2 or 3 of these guys at one time can be super dangerous. So essentially what I have to do is kind of just kite them one at a time, or avoid them if at all possible, because they will severely chunk my health. And fortunately, the bowed trident coming in clutch here, they are weak to stabbing damage. And there's another one. So that timed out really well that I was able to kill the first black worker ant or black soldier ant before the second one came. The reason I do need to come in here is mainly for the black soldier ant mandibles, is so that I can make the black ant shovel, but also because, to the best of my knowledge, this is the only place I'm going to be able to get mussel sprouts, since I'm not going to be able to get in the pond dome, which normally is where I get mussel sprouts from. The chests that spawn inside this lab, which I'll have access to several of them, have a chance of having mussel sprouts in them. I use mussel sprouts all the time when I normally do a playthrough, because it is used for the beefy smoothies. So fortunately, I'll be able to get into at least part of the lab here, because I can blow this little rock up here, and there will be some robots in here. I will not be able to get through the entire lab though. But there's going to be some areas I'm just not going to be able to access, because I don't have the ability, because I haven't talked to BURG.L, and there's just nothing I can do. There is a boss fight at the end of this lab that I would normally do, but again, I'm not going to be able to do the boss fight because I have not talked to BURG.L, or I have not repaired BURG.L. So here's a little area that is a biometric scanner. Can't get into there. So I'm just going to head down here and just see what I can find. The main priority is just looking for chests. If I can find a chest and grab those mussel sprouts, that's all I really need at this point. I already got the black ant mandibles that I need to make the shovel, and that's really all I need those parts for. I also might use some of the black ant parts to make a black ant shield later on when I go to the upper yard. It might have actually been smart to have one at this point. And inside of here, we're going to see some more of the tased teas. And again, these guys, like I saw when I saw them in the hedge lab, the best bet is to kind of just try to keep them one at a time, because getting hit by 2 or 3 of them at the same time, they can actually chunk. This guy's doing his little triple attack. So doing the charge attack just kind of wrecked them there. So pretty easy to take care of these guys if it's just one-on-one. And this is a pretty well-designed lab. It is very deep and intricate. It's kind of easy to get lost. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's as easy to get lost as the Hedge Lab, even though the Hedge Lab seems like it's much smaller. It is really well designed, but there are certainly lots of twists and turns here and here. There's lots of secrets that you can gain access to, some of which I'm not going to be able to gain access to because I simply just cannot open the doors to get to them. But I'm going to do my best to try to get through here without dying, and also by getting as much loot as possible. So a bunch of bandages here, grab those. Now I'm going to head down. I'm going to research the black ant mandibles, which again are going to be needed to make the black ant shovel. And of course, I'll need those to make the wall mount for the black ant, soldier ant later on. Heading up this hallway, just looking for chests. I believe there's a chest outside this door, so this might be my first chance of actually getting the muscle sprouts. And unfortunately, it does not have any muscle sprouts in it. There's a meal in there which could be useful, but honestly, at this point, the sticky smoothies are going to be much more useful to me. Some upgrade rocks and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna grab as much as I can. And again, unfortunately, that chest, it could have had muscle sprouts in it, which would have been the best bet for me. I'm gonna leave the meal behind because right now I just don't need it. So I'm just gonna continue adventuring on, looking for more chests. Having explored every inch and corner and nook and cranny of the Black Ant Lab or Black Ant Hill, and opening every chest that I came across, unfortunately, I did not find any muscle sprouts. So it looks like for the duration of this 100 days, I'm not going to have any beefy smoothies, which is a kind of a letdown, but it's just going to be another challenge I'm going to have to overcome. So I'm going to head back out, go to sleep for the night. Again, there's a bunch of food there, so hopefully these ants aren't hoarding too much. I did manage to get through the entire Black Ant Hill without dying, which was definitely a plus. And I did come out with enough resources to make the shovel and plenty of other resources for anything else I might need the Black Ant parts for. It's finally time to head into the sandbox. I'm going to grab the mac and cheese or mac and bees meal that was up there. Did remember to bring the silk rope with me this time to use the zip line, which is going to help me get in here. Again, I could have went in here through the Black Ant Hill, but this is definitely going to be the easier way. The reason I want to go this way is because I know there's one antlion that I can 100% cheese without having to fight it. Having level 0 gear right now, I know these antlions are going to hit harder than the black soldier ants that I just had to deal with. So I have to be very careful with them. Fortunately, the one that's sitting here, that's in this little pit down here, this one is going to be very, very easy to kill, because what ends up happening is I can hit it with arrows and it can't hit me. So I'm going to easily get the parts from this one before heading down and actually trying to legit fight at least one of these guys to see exactly how hard they might hit me. After cheesing the first antlion, it's time to actually see if I can fight a regular antlion. So the one that's popping out here, they're going to still hit like a truck. They're going to have far less health than the ones that are down in the pits. But these guys are definitely dangerous. That attack there where it pops up out of the ground, if it hits me with that, it'll probably one-shot me. So it will actually chunk me if I miss a block here. So I definitely need to be careful. Fortunately, I'm able to stun it. And then, of course, just as I stun it, as is often the case, my stamina depletes. So when it does its little berry attack here, I'm going to jump back. Now, if I had full upgraded armor here, I would have no problem trying to perfect block that. But because I don't, and right there, on a regular little lunge attack, I just lost about 80% of my health. And could have very easily, if I would not have had on ladybug armor, I probably would have died there. So definitely I have to be careful here. It's going back in for another dive attack, and I'm going to jump out and just kind of avoid that, and then just try to take this guy down. I got to be really careful here and definitely try to time my blocks properly, because missing the blocks is definitely not going to be helpful. Even if I block and just don't do the parrying, it'll probably end up stunning me and possibly getting in a second attack. So I am able to take down one of the antlions legitimately, which is good to know. But also the fact that it hit me as hard as it did, I'm probably going to have to regroup and try to come back tomorrow with some better, better prepared, and just be ready for exploring the rest of the sandbox. I returned to the sandbox the next day. I did end up getting enough parts to make antlion armor, which is going to be huge because it's tier 3 armor. Main goal is going to be just to come in here and try to get some of the treasures. So this is going to be buried treasure. This is going to be a skeleton that's going to have another badge on it. And of course, just as I do that, an antlion pops out. Now, the antlions that usually pop out around here, I used to 100% get them stuck on this umbrella, and I could fully cheese them. I think they've made them a little bit smarter here, because this guy, of course, decided he wants to disappear. Even with the better armor on and having more protection, I'm still going to be careful, because I don't want this guy to pop out of the ground and whack me, because I think he could still probably one-shot me, considering I have on level 0 armor, which is what I'm going to be using for the entirety or the rest of this playthrough. Now, the antlion armor is typically the one that I grab after the ladybug armor. I typically go either clover armor or one of the other tier 1 armors and then go straight to ladybug armor. and then try to get antlion armor, and I'll generally use the antlion armor for quite a bit of time. Eventually, I do normally switch to the fire ant armor. It just kind of depends. I'm not sure what's going to happen this time because from my experience, having level 0 armor, it's just becoming really, really hard to deal with these tier 3. This is the first tier 3 enemy. It's just becoming really, really hard. So this guy's smarter. They used to not come up here. And actually, one thing they would definitely not do is they would not cross this little line right there on the sandbox for some reason. But they've now since fixed that. So I'm having to legit fight this guy. Fortunately, my perfect block timing is very good there. I'm able to stun him and just go to town on him. The Bone Trident, again, is just kind of carrying me through the first half of this 100-day adventure here. It's just super useful. It stuns enemies. It does quite a bit of damage. It also has high attack speed, and it's fairly cheap to repair. I do have to go to the bottom of the koi pond periodically to get some sunken bones, but for the most part, it's definitely worth using, and I just really like it. It's got a long reach and everything. It's just super, super useful. So take down another antlion, and I'm going to basically just be exploring here through the rest of the sandbox, trying to grab anything I can find. And I will be definitely trying to get the, even though I'm not going to be able to craft it, I'm going to try to grab the key for the chest that's going to give me the Salt Morningstar. I know I won't be able to make it, but I'm going to grab it while I'm here if I can. And I just kind of want to look around and see if I can find any more antlions, because I do want to get as many parts as possible, because I'm certainly going to need them, because this is the armor I'm going to be using for probably the next, like, probably the next couple weeks in-game in terms of time played, and it might even be the armor that I end up using through the entire 100 days. It really just depends on whether or not I can get fire ant armor. So here comes another antlion. He's going to do his little dig attack here and pop out, and I'm backing up because I'm not even risking it. And like I said, I can normally block that, but I just don't even want to risk it because I feel like if I get hit with that, it's just going to one-shot me. I've made it to day 41 with 0 deaths, so only 59 more days to go, and I don't want this day to be the day. Now, one thing of note, up to this point, it's funny that I've fought almost, I believe, basically almost every enemy in the lower yard, especially the aggressive ones. The only one that I have managed to avoid up to this point has been the wolf spider. I have gone out of my way to avoid wolf spiders. There is a wolf spider in the sandbox, and I did make sure that I avoided it the other day, or yesterday as I was in here, and I'm probably going to do the same thing today. I do have an idea of where I want to fight my first wolf spider, because what I want to do is unlock Mithridatism before I just end up fighting them in melee combat. So taking out another antlion, I'm just going to kind of explore the rest of the sandbox and just grab as many resources as possible for the rest of the day. With full antlion armor and fresh defense level 3, I'm ready to head to the barbecue spill, which is the first area in the upper yard. I'm going to grab myself some charcoal here. This is also going to be the location of where I'm going to try to fight my first wolf spider, because I know there's wolf spiders here that I can easily kill without any danger, which will unlock Mithridatism, which will help me just reduce the amount of poison damage I'll take when I fight one basically heads up. So, of course, here's my first ladybird larva, and as normal, there's more than one of them. Ladybird larvae are basically all over the upper yard. If you remember back to when I was in the hedge lab and there were spiderlings everywhere, imagine the upper yard just basically having, instead of spiderlings, there are just ladybird larvae everywhere. They basically they're just over the entire yard. So here's a little secret here. Grab the entomologist badge, and then I'm going to try to grab some more charcoal. Now, foolishly, I start hitting this one without paying attention, not realizing that it's not actually a piece of charcoal. It's just a giant rock there that's on fire. And you'll notice even with full antlion armor on, fresh defense equipped, I'm still sizzling pretty quickly. So I'm going to have to go in here and be careful. Basically, just break one piece of charcoal at a time and grab as much of that as I can so that I don't really have to come back here much in the future. After collecting all the charcoal chunks, on my 42nd day, it is finally time to take on a wolf spider, and I will do it in the most cowardly way possible by fully cheesing these two. Now, I know these guys cannot reach where I am because I'm up on top of a wall. They're underneath the barbecue lid, and I've fought these guys plenty of times before. They'll try as they might. They will just not be able to get up here. Fighting these two is going to allow me to unlock Mithridatism level 1, which then I will be able to use when I go and fight the wolf spiders. I just don't want to fight a wolf spider without it, because I know as soon as I get that poison applied, it's just going to really chunk me. So I'm going to just slowly chip away at these guys, just like I did with that first antlion that I fought. 1 down, 1 to go. Mithridatism level 1 unlocked. So now I feel like I can safely fight the wolf spiders and not go out of my way to avoid them like I have been up to this point. So I'm going to head down there, grab the remains of the spiders, and grab back most of my arrows. That was a pretty easy fight, and while not intended, it's definitely the way I'm going to take the wolf spiders out, because They are probably my least favorite enemy to fight, especially early on. Even with good gear, having level 0 everything is just going to be much more painful than if I was fully geared up. So I'm not going to have any shame in taking out my first wolf spider by shooting it from far above where it can't reach me, because I need to take every advantage I can in this 100-day challenge so that I don't die. It's finally time to face a wolf spider legit in melee combat. So here's the first one. This one's under the deck of the house, and off to a good start here, blocking the couple shots. And unfortunately, out of nowhere, a larva decides to come in and just completely throw everything off. So of course I get hit. The larva's hitting me. I'm gonna have to run away and kind of regroup here and hope the spider doesn't chase me. I was doing perfect up to that point. I was legit down to like 10% health there. I nearly died. And you can see how much the poison's chunking, even with Mithridatism on at the 25% reduction. Had I not had Mithridatism, I would have died there, specifically just because of the larva. The larva is what cost me to take any damage there. I was actually doing pretty good, perfect blocking the spider. So I'm feeling kind of confident at this point, as long as I don't get attacked, third-partied by a larva or some other enemy here. So wolf spiders are coming here with the quad attack and blocking every single one of them, also stunning them. So wolf spider is weak to the axe. It is also weak to spicy. Unfortunately, I have up to this point have not been able to find the spicy candy trinket thing that is similar to the mint, and I'm legit blocking everything here. And then of course, as I say that, I miss one of the blocks, and I've blocked all but one. Just having that poison on there though is like severely chunking me, and I missed another one there, but I'm okay. I'm out healing it a little bit. And again, I take a hit there, so I'm kind of in danger again. If I would have got hit there, I probably would have died. I really need to commit here and just finish this guy off. Otherwise, I'm going to die. And I do take him down. My health's, again, below 20% there. So you can see, this is with tier 3 armor on. Of course, it's level 0, so it's not leveled up. With tier 3 armor on and basically perfect blocking 90% of the attacks, I still almost died to it. So I can only imagine how rough that fight would have been had I taken that wolf spider on earlier with especially with like tier 1 armor on. The clover armor would have probably just killed me in one shot. I'm just not that great at perfect blocking even after all this time. I can perfect block pretty consistently. I know all the enemy's attacks, but sometimes it's just like being off by a fraction of a second. And when it comes to the wolf spider, that fraction of a second miss is going to result in taking the poison damage, which is going to be devastating. With one wolf spider down, I'm going to go for number 2. The goal I'm trying to do is to get 2 more. That way I'll have Mithridatism level 2 unlocked, because it's going to require killing 5 of these guys. And I'm off to a good start here. I kind of feel confident that as long as I don't get hit from some other enemy behind, or have something weird happen, like get stuck on something. Fighting it in the grass here is a little dicey, because it could very well just get stuck on something, or I could get stuck on something, or my attacks will hit grass instead of hitting the wolf spider. But so far so good. I'm blocking every single attack and have stunned the wolf spider. It's really, I'm just kind of like handling this guy. He's pretty straightforward here. And perfect block, perfect block, perfect block. It hasn't hit me one time yet, which is just great. So, of course, just as I say that, it's going to come in for a lunge attack, which I block. Gets in a quick attack there and gets me with the poison. But fortunately for me, I get one last block in and take this one down. That was a much cleaner fight. So I'm definitely confident I can take out the wolf spiders. Going for the 3rd wolf spider in a row. This one's underneath the yoked girth head. So I'm going to shoot my little gas down there arrow in there to kind of bait him out and get him out in the open, because I don't want to fight him in the cave if I don't have to. And unfortunately, this one gets me right off the rip, hitting me with the poison. Getting the poison on me very quickly is just rough. It's much better to take the poison damage at the end, because this stuff just ticks over time, and I gotta like try to heal it. So fortunately, falling down a little cliff there benefited me a little bit. And unfortunately for that poor little ant there, he's underneath the wolf spider. He's probably gonna end up dying in this fight somehow. Blocking again here. This is doing okay at this point, but then again getting hit with the poison, so the poison is gonna start piling up on me. And my health is just starting to slowly chunk down. For some reason, I don't know why, this fight just going a lot less cleaner than the previous one. And now I'm getting hit again. Of course, here we go with the third party again. There's just a lawn mite there. For whatever reason, the lawn mite's there. I guess I backed into it. Now there's a couple of lawn mites, and they're hitting me. This is as close to death as I've been in the entire run up to this point. I'm literally at like 5 HP right there. With the lawn mites chasing me, with the wolf spider coming. The wolf spider hits me again. I'm again like below like 10% health. I nearly died right there. If these leaves weren't here, I probably would have died right there. The stupid lawn mites were just chunking my health a little bit and causing me to get hit. Now, for some reason, this spider decides he's going to go right in the other spider's house and go to sleep mid-fight for me. I guess he was, I don't know if he was tired out from poisoning me, but that certainly benefited me that he went to sleep, so I was able to fully perfect block that combo. And then he's pinned in his little corner here. Even though I get poisoned there, I take him out. So One clean fight, two fights that were kind of rough, but I did unlock Mithridatism level 2, which was the ultimate goal. It's day 61, and it's finally time to do some more exploration in the upper yard. So what I'm going to do first is set up a little outpost on the chopping block. This is just outside of the termite hill. So having a workbench up here, a roasting spit, a lean-to, and a dew collector is going to be helpful just so I don't have to traverse back and forth all the way down to my base. Without the zip lines, it makes it a little bit tougher to travel, and there's quite a bit of time running back and forth. So I want to just set this up here, and ideally what I want to do is try to fight some termites outside the hill. Now, up to this point, I've kind of got to the, I've gotten to the point where I've realized what is going to be possible and what's not going to be possible. Normally, I would just go into the termite hill with my level 3 armor on, have it leveled up probably to level 5 or 6 or 7, go in there with my salt weapon. I'd have like the bone trident with salt on it, and just go in there and just completely slaughter the termites, because there are a ton of them in there. The black ant hill had a lot of black ants, but the termite hill has so many termites. And going inside of there, honestly, with what I have right now, is a death trap. It wouldn't even matter if I perfect blocked every attack. They're going to do their dust attack. They're going to gang up on me. There's just no way I can go inside the termite hill. So what I'm going to do is just try to bait them out, or grab that, basically just fight them as they're outside of the hill and just fight them one at a time. Because fighting these guys in a group is just, it's just not going to be possible in level 0 gear. It's just not. So what I'm going to do is just, I see the termite soldier down there. I know I only really need to take out a couple of these guys. I need to make the termite axe to basically just keep exploring in the upper yard. There are going to be some spots that require the tier 3 axe to be able to break them. I'm also going to need them for splinter arrows if I want to make the highest tier arrows. There's another termite there. They do wander in and out, so it shouldn't be too terribly hard to find one of them outside of here. And ideally, the goal is going to be just to kind of kite them back to the chopping block and fight them there, or if possible, stay up on top of the grass here and just shoot them with a bow, which would be the easiest thing. But like I said, normally I would just have a salty bone trident here, and I would just completely annihilate these guys, because as you can see, it's pretty easy to kill them, especially with even using salt arrows as I am right now. And this guy just goes down real quick. So there, as you can see, there the termites are very, very weak to salt. There's a termite worker, so I want to take him out too, just so I can get at least one of them. What not going in the termite hill means is that I'm definitely not going to be able to see the termite king. The termite king is inside the termite hill. I just don't see any possible way of getting inside of there, knowing that the room that's outside of where the termite king is located typically is going to have, I don't know, somewhere between like 5 and 10 termites wandering in and out of there. And even the hill, even the tunnel that leads down to them is just going to be laced with them. So I can't even imagine getting through there with level 0 gear. So I'm just going to kind of concede the fact that the termite king is just going to be off limits. While collecting some mushrooms to eat, I stumble upon a termite worker all by itself. Now, I do have the black ant shield, which I equipped here. Unfortunately, one of the changes they made recently was, I don't know why they did this, I guess to try to, I don't know if it's to deter people from using shields. If you have a shield equipped, you deal less damage. So I don't know what percentage it is, but I'm doing less damage. It's taking so long to kill this one termite worker. And I'm just imagining that there's no, even if I went into the hill with a shield, look how long it's taking me to kill a single termite worker. Imagine there being 5 or 6 or 7 of them with a couple of soldiers around them. It's just not feasible. So I've gotten all the parts I needed to make the termite axe. And at this point, I think I'm satisfied with what I've done. I'll probably have to come back up here a little bit later to kill a couple more termites just to make the wall mounts for them. But in general, I kind of got everything I wanted out of the termites up to this point. It's day 81, and I'm making my way over towards Castle Moldork. Now, of course, normally I would build my way over with a floor to get inside of it, but because I don't have access to any floor pieces except for the spiky burr floors, and they're like extraordinarily expensive, there's just no way I'm building over there, because there's honestly nothing inside of it. I can't get inside the lab. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to fight the tiger mosquitoes and try to get them up here to fight them, and then I'm going to drop down in the water and fight some spiny water fleas, just to kind of check off the boxes of fighting those enemies. So the tiger mosquito here, again, blocking the mosquitoes, going to drop to the ground. Of course, I forgot to equip the fresh suspicious ice cap here for the fresh attack, and now I've lost track of the mosquito. These guys are actually not that terrible at this point since I have upgraded gear. They will hit a little bit harder than the regular mosquitoes, but overall they're not going to be that hard to deal with. And this guy's just going to keep coming in. They have the same attack pattern as the regular mosquitoes, and again, perfect blocking them will drop them to the ground. And the rusty spear, which is what I'm using at this point, and in my opinion, is probably the best weapon I can get access to. Maybe the toenail scimitar could be a little bit better, but the rusty spear is far easier to craft and maintain. So I'm going to be using that predominantly whenever possible. So I took down the first tiger mosquito without much trouble and got the tiger mosquito beak, which is what I'm going to need in order to make the wall mount for my trophy room. It's time to take a swim in the moat around Castle Moldork, and I'm going to be doing that to fight the spiny water fleas. There are also spiny water fleas in the upper right part of the map, but since I'm here, I'm just going to take this guy out. They do have a wall mount. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make that wall mount unless I get the pond moss, which is going to require getting a Black Widow dagger, which requires lots of Black Widow parts. So the spiny water flea might be one of the few enemies that I actually kill that I cannot make the wall mount for. There's really nothing much down here in the moat, so I'm just going to head back out and head back home with my newly acquired resources that I'll be needing for my trophy room. It's day 83. I'm hanging out in my original outpost, and lo and behold, here comes yet another raid, and it's mosquitoes yet again. This is actually the 5th time I've been raided in 83 days. Every single time has been by mosquitoes. I'm not sure why that's the case, especially considering the fact that right now I'm actually located in the middle of the yard where literally anything could reach me. Perhaps it's the fact that I recently went up and killed a couple of tiger mosquitoes, but I don't know if that's what's triggering it, but every single one of the 5 raids that I've had up to this point from the faction reactivity has been from mosquitoes. I could understand the other 4 because they all occurred, or at least 3 of them occurred at the base that was over on Aphid Island. I think another one actually occurred here, and unfortunately, there's just more and more. Each time that it happens, there's more and more mosquitoes. And while I'm really not in danger of actually dying here, I'm just kind of wasting the durability on my gear. And this, honestly, this outpost, I really don't care much about it at this point because there's just nothing here that's important. I've moved everything of importance over to my main base. So I'm still going to try to take out as many of these guys as I can. And they just seem to keep coming. So I think this is the last one from the first wave. There's probably going to be some more waves after this. And they do go down pretty easily, but like I said, they're just going to keep coming and coming and coming because this is the 5th faction reactivity, and each successive one, there's just more and more of them. So at this point, I just don't even feel like wasting any more of the durability on my gear. I'm just going to let them break whatever they're going to break because they're really not breaking anything. There's just some weed stem walls, which I can certainly replace if I need to. And everything inside, like I said, there's nothing inside that's important, and it is what it is. I'm just going to accept the fact that I just don't feel like dealing with them at this point. I really find it weird that I haven't been attacked by anything else. I've killed up to this point nearly every different type of bug in the yard and multiple of most of them. So it's kind of strange that I'm not getting attacked by anything else other than mosquitoes. And finally they leave, and the destruction is kind of, I mean, it's not terrible. They did just destroy some walls and stuff like that. They broke my pallet up there, but everything else inside of the base surprisingly ended up being okay. So I'll just go to sleep and clean it up in the morning. It's day 92 and I finally decided to take on some wasps. So I'm up by the tool bench or the toolbox up here. I'm on top of the lawnmower so I can kind of kite these wasps one at a time and not have to fight all 3 of them at the same time, which would be super dangerous, especially with the drone over there. The drone will end up healing the other ones. So I want to get these guys one-on-one. It's just going to be much easier. They will shoot whatever, they shoot something at you, like some kind of poison. It actually does poison damage. So having the Mithridatism one will help with that. Without Mithridatism, if they hit you with that, you will get chunked really hard. So definitely going to be mindful of that. As I got hit there, I didn't even avoid it. But fortunately, I have salt arrows, which these guys are super weak to, and I end up just killing the first wasp fairly easy. I just took a little bit of damage from the poison, but it wasn't too terribly bad taking that first wasp out. After dealing with the wasps, I decide that since I'm up here and I probably won't be back up here again, I'm going to run down the ladder, which you can access by running up the handlebar of the lawnmower that I was on. The reason I'm doing that is there is a little secret here up in the corner on the brick wall that I might as well grab while I'm up here because, like I said, I'm probably not going to make my way up here again. So running down here the ladder, there's going to be a vine up ahead, and basically what I'm going to have to do is just parkour my way up there. The first time I had to do this was it was painful because I kept falling down. Now that I've done it a couple times before since I played through the game several times, I kind of know how to get up here without too much trouble, because if you fall from here, even if you have a glider, you're not going to take damage, but the problem is going to be getting all the way back up here. It's going to waste quite a bit of time. So you got to be really careful when you're doing this jumping. And even here, I'm kind of going over here and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to jump to this leaf? And then I realize, nope, I'm supposed to I can backtrack here and just make it easier on myself and get up here by jumping up on this stem here and then getting on the wall here and walking back up. Because trying to jump around on those leaves there, especially the ones that are kind of vertical to the ground, that is that's very treacherous, and it's very easy to fall from that. So making my way up here, there's going to be a nice little hidden secret. This is a really well-placed secret because I would imagine that most people probably wouldn't find this without looking up a guide. It's just really well hidden, and who would think there's just going to be a random piece of gum stuck up on the very top of the wall? So of course I have my black ant shovel. I'm going to dig the gum out here, And underneath it is going to be a nice little secret, which we'll see in just a second. And there we go. It's going to be the sticky key. So the sticky key is going to give me access to a treasure chest that's hidden, also hidden pretty well, which I'll be dropping down and getting most likely the next day in game, because it's going to be too late to do it now because it's getting dark. Having killed the regular wasp the previous day, I decided I'm going to take on the wasp drone here. Now these guys can be very dicey because they will heal, and fighting them when there's other wasps around is really painful because they will heal the other wasps as well. Now, this guy's going to come flying in, and I don't know what, for whatever reason, I got really good luck here. This guy gets stuck on the lawnmower. This is one of the reasons I hid under here, to just try to make it easier to fight them. Had no idea this was going to happen, and this guy just got completely shredded by the salt arrows. Again, salt arrows are just the best thing to use against wasps. Having acquired the sticky key the previous day, I'm going to head down here inside this tire. So down inside this tire is going to be a secret chest. Now, the problem is going to be it is guarded usually by a bunch of spiny water fleas. And the other problem is getting out of this thing. The parkour on these leaves can be very, very challenging. So I'm kind of looking around just to see where the spiny water fleas are, to see if they're down here, because they will be. There's several of them, and if I get hit by a bunch of them, it could actually be pretty dangerous. So inside here is going to be some milk molars, which again, just kind of collecting those. Can't really do anything with them. There's some upgrade rocks down here. There's the spiny water flea, so I'm immediately booking it over here to try to get on these leaves so that they can't hit me, and parkouring out. Now let's greedily grab the extra rocks down here again that I can't use, but you know, might as well grab them anyway. And get up here on top of these leaves and parkour my way out of here. First time doing this was really, really hard. Now I kind of understand how to do it, but it's still not the easiest thing because you'll hit your head on the leaves like that and fall right back down into the water. And I think there's like 4 or 5 spiny water fleas down here. And like I said, they can hit pretty hard, much harder than the regular water fleas. They're not terribly dangerous, but certainly don't want to have to be dealing with them. They're just swimming down there. They're almost like little piranhas, just waiting for somebody to fall into the water so they can feast on them. Now, fortunately, I make my way up here, and getting out of here is not going to be terribly hard. The recipe that I got was actually for bomb arrows, which are actually needed for obtaining one of the trinkets that's in the game. And other than that, they're semi-useful. You can use them to blow up rocks instead of using the splat burst and stuff like that. But most of the beefier enemies in the game are resistant to explosives. So overall, they're not like terribly useful, but they can certainly be used in some situations. It's day 94, and I am hunting the most elusive creature in the backyard, at least the most elusive creature to me. That is going to be the scarab. I have come so close to killing these little things so many times. Fortunately, I finally have the Black Ox crossbow. Using the crow crossbow, even with a salt arrow or a mint arrow, any of the arrows, it just didn't kill. It wasn't enough to kill them, and they would always get away. I actually had one really close to kill. I had one pinned in a corner and shot it instead of meleeing it, and it got away. But this one here, using the Black Ox crossbow, and it pauses right in front of me. Finally, this is probably the 10th or 15th one of these guys that I've tried to kill, and I finally did it. Now, the unfortunate part is it dropped 2 twinkling shells, and I need 3 twinkling shells to make the wall mount. So I'm going to have to kill at least one more to be able to make the wall mount for the scarab. So I know where there's one that spawns relatively like consistently, and it's one of the easier ones to kill. So I'm going to head there and see if that one actually spawns in today. This spoon that has salt on it that's also in the upper yard, it's next to the red Sasquatch dirt bike. There's usually a scarab that will wander past here, and if I just sit very quietly up on the spoon, hopefully it'll walk past, like directly past me, so I can easily kill it without having to worry about it. Oh, here it comes perfectly right at me. That couldn't have worked out any better. The timing was absolutely magnificent, and it drops 2 shells, so it gives me, I have a total of 4, which means I'm going to be able to make the scarab wall mount, which means my collection will be as near complete as possible. It's the 99th day of my 100-day adventure, and I finally got the courage to go up and plug the canister that is unleashing the poison above the haze. And the reason I've been putting this off is because I know when I do this, it is going to release the infected bugs all over the yard. It's also going to unleash the most deadly bug, especially in the lower yard, but I feel like almost in the game, and that's going to be the infected wolf spider. So I'm going to go up here and plug this, and afterwards I'm going to go peep the infected wolf spider, and we'll just see how that goes. Those guys are certainly, in my opinion, maybe the Black Widow's a little bit harder, but the infected wolf spider can certainly just completely wreck you. So those two it would be an interesting fight to see a Black Widow versus a infected wolf spider. The Black Widow will probably win because it is resistant to explosions, but the infected wolf spider is certainly a monster in and of itself. There are 2 infected wolf spider spawns, and the safer one to approach this thing is going to be the one in the upper yard because I can cowardly hide up on top of this bike and see if I can spot it. There's also one under the oak tree, but if that thing just ambushes me, I'm going to be in big trouble. So I'm going to see if I can spot this one safely from up here on the Sasquatch dirt bike. And yet there it is, and it even senses me from this far away. So there's the infected wolf spider. Now, interestingly enough, in this position, I'd never really thought about this because honestly, the first time I thought this thing, I hit on top of that little flower pot down there and shot it with arrows and it couldn't reach me. If I'm up on top of this bike, if I had enough mint arrows, I probably could kill it from up here. Unfortunately, I don't, and I don't even want to try to fight this thing in melee range because it's 100% going to one-shot me. And there's no way after surviving for 99 days that I'm going to risk taking this thing on head-to-head when I know I have trouble doing it when I'm wearing level 9 gear and having level 9 mint weapons. It is day 100 of my journey through Grounded without having BURG.L at my side guiding me along. I'm making my way over to the Pond Pagoda, which is what I call the trophy room. It's where I've placed all the mounts of all the creatures I've killed. There's one for every creature I've killed with the exception of the spiny water flea because I did not get any pond moss. I did keep the Black Widow, but I did not even take on the Black Widow, and I didn't take on the infected wolf spider. I knew that there was just no chance I was going to be able to take those guys on. In level 0 gear, I'm just not efficient enough at perfect blocking, especially the Black Widow, because the Black Widow's attacks were actually, its speed was even increased. So as you can see here, there is a wall mount statue for basically every single almost every creature in the game. And this is my trophy room. Certainly proud that I made it through 100 days and took on all these creatures and was able to vanquish them and just have their trophies mounted in my trophy room. On my way back to my main base, I wanted to stop by the mysterious machine and just take a look at it one last time. This is something that normally on day 1 I've taken care of. Press this little button here, activated it. This is day 100, have not activated. BURG.L is still laying down inside of the oak tree lab, waiting to be rescued. Hopefully he wasn't suffering too much, but you know, I had to do what I had to do. So now I'm going to head over to my main base and kind of give a little bit of a tour and give a recap of everything that's happened in the last 100 days of my Grounded adventure. So this is one of the entranceways into the main base that I built on Aphid Island over in the eastern flooded zone just near the hedge. I built clay foundation bridges from this direction. I also put one towards the sprinklers, and then there's one that goes over towards the retaining wall just to give me easy access to the directions that I normally go. As you can see here, I have put up the nice little sprig railings all along the lines. Taking a look over here, I'm going to be going over and checking out the little path that I created over here. Now, for this one and the one that goes by the sprinklers, I did have to put a fence around the end of it because what ended up happening was there were larvae that were wandering up here. The one that I just came across, I did have that connected. I ended up detaching it and just jumping up on the leaf because larvae were coming over from there as well. Over here is going to be the third and final clay bridge that I built. Again, these didn't take terribly long to build. The clay portion didn't because there's lots of clay over here. Collecting all the sprigs and making all the crude rope certainly did. So now let's head over to the main base and just take a look at it. It has been fully upgraded. All the walls are now made out of weed stems. I ended up using the clover awnings for the roof pieces. Originally, I was going to use the feather awnings. Actually, I was going to use pine cone, but the cost of the pine cone roofs pieces are way too expensive. It's 2 pine cone pieces and 2 spiky burrs. Prior to plugging the haze, I only had 10 spiky burrs, and even after plugging the haze, I would have had to wait a couple days to get the spiky burrs. It just wasn't worth it. So I thought the clover kind of matched anyway with the aesthetics of the island it's on. I did put the second levels up here with the windows around it. The reason I did that was just in case I got attacked by mosquitoes again, I would have an extra layer of defense and not have all my stuff destroyed. Got a little porch over here with my garden as well as the pallets, the abomination totems over here. Heading inside, again, everything's clay. I kind of have everything arranged like nice and properly here. We have the chairs here in front of the fireplace. Got some firefly lamps up above. Back out here is going to be the patio that had been destroyed multiple times, so it's reinforced here, looking nice and spiffy. A great place to eat. All of the crafting stations back here. And then heading inside and over here is going to be, to the left is going to be my bedroom, which is where it's always been. Have my nice little bed down there. And yeah, that's the tour of the house that I built. We do have a hot tub in there. I did get coziness level 4 in certain parts of the house, so that was the maximum coziness level. So let's do a quick recap of everything that has happened up to this point. So over the course of the 100 days, I killed a total of 723 creatures. In addition to that, I peeped 98% of the creatures that I could possibly peep. The only one that I missed was the Termite King. I also killed 91% of the creatures. So again, one of my goals at the beginning was to kill as many creatures as possible. I killed 91% of them, and I also acquired 8 gold cards. In addition to that, there were lots of collectibles that I got. I was able to acquire 29 of the scabs. I found 45 milk molars. Through all the research and analysis and surviving the faction reactivity raids, I was able to acquire a total of 14,800 raw science. I unlocked 19 of the mutations, and I found 78 landmarks. But the biggest stat of all is the fact that I completed the complete 100 days without BURG.L in Grounded with 0 total deaths. So what did I learn during my 100 days of Grounded? First up is the game is hard even on medium with level 0 gear. Having played through the game many times with upgraded gear, the game felt like a completely different game using level 0 gear. Not being able to upgrade my armor and weapons definitely made combat much more challenging. I had to be much more careful as I was traversing through the yard and taking on fights. Fights that I would normally just take on without even having a second thought of it, I definitely had to think through each kind of fight and kind of figure out what was the best position to put myself in so I didn't end up dying. Next up is going to be having to collect resources to repair gear provided a totally different survival experience. Normally, once you've made it about halfway through the game, you'll have unlocked the glue station, which is going to let you turn resources into repair glue to repair your gear. Having to go down into the koi pond to get sunken bones, or having to go back to the sandbox to get antlion parts, going to different parts of the map to get specific parts, bug parts, or resources I have to repair my gear, just gave me a reason to explore parts of the yard multiple times that I normally wouldn't have, and it was overall just made the experience much more enjoyable. And lastly, I'd love to have a mode like this available while also being able to fight all the bosses, upgrade my gear, and unlock everything that's only available through BURG.L. As my 100th day of Grounded without BURG.L concludes, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.